in a vaguely formal way, my lords, ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished guests. For those of you who don't know me, I am your host, James Bowater, founder and chief executive of the Digital Commonwealth. Welcome to our third edition of the Mansion House Summit Series, in which we encompass the world of digital assets, science, technology, and Web3. Whoopsie. And many of those who do know me will recall that my journey into this industry really solidified on the 18th of June, 2018, too many 18s then, 6 years ago, with the launch of Crypto AM, which I did, as you know, in partnership with City AM. So it's therefore become a bit of an annual tradition to celebrate by unlocking summer, which of course it was lovely and summery this morning, but I went outside a moment ago and it was pretty bloody awful. Yeah, well, June weather. But anyway, we like to do the unlocking summer. So, you know, that's when solstice is around, and next week it's the 20th of June because it's a leap year. But this was the only date that was available at Mansion House, and it's a Friday, and it means I can go on holiday, which is great. So, here we are. I hope that you enjoyed your summery menu so far. You've got a nice pudding coming after this. Many will also remember, though, that I had a pathological fear of public speaking. I really did. It's taken a long time to overcome that fear. But for me, serving wine at lunch seemed to be a good place to start. So joking apart, I also like to take inspiration from my peers and seeing how they cope. And speaking of peers, one who has continued to inspire me and is such a powerful advocate in the digital asset, science, technology, and Web3 space is my dear friend and advisor, Chris. Turn page, James. Or otherwise known as Lord Holmes of Richmond MBE. Not content with just being Britain's most successful Paralympic swimmer ever, Chris is a vocal and active member of the House of Lords with a passion for seeing digital technology harnessed for the public good, which is why it gives me great pleasure to invite him to the podium now to deliver the Founder's Invitational Address. Lord Holmes. And Nancy, the stage is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Pretty average, wasn't it?
Afternoon.
Exactly, that's more like it. So it's time to get to know you a little bit. All of you who've only had one glass of wine, say one. I thought that would be the case. All of you who've had two, say two. Okay. All of you who have had three or more, say, mea culpa. Excellent. And the main reason for asking that question, in a pretense I wanted to get to know you, was only because now I know, frankly, it doesn't really matter what I say up here at all. You're all my kind of audience. Let's start with some thank yous, first of all, to all the staff and all the servers and everybody who's laid on such a tremendous lunch for us. Let's give them a big hand. To our patron familier, whatever that means, James Bowater, having stood up such an excellent event as the Digital Commonwealth, let's give him a big roar. Now, I thought I knew most things about James, but I've had a very, very lovely lunch sat next to James's mum. Any of you who want the real inside track, I'm taking fiat, crypto, bullion. In fact, it's going to be in the next couple of weeks.
How many kilos, mate?
Well, exactly. She gave you a weight in stone. It's fine. But what is going to rock your world in a couple of weeks? Me and James's mum are going to do a podcast series. Come on. I tell you, it's going to be special. What I thought I'd do, though, is just give a bit of a state of the union, where we are right now in this space. And perhaps, like me, your diary is looking somewhat different as a result of that announcement 3 weeks ago on an otherwise unremarkable Wednesday afternoon. And I tell you, the main reason why we need the digital Commonwealth, why we need digital finance to succeed in this country, because currently we're the 5th largest economy on the planet, and we can't even afford for our Prime Minister to have an umbrella. I mean, you'd have thought he'd have just pulled back the nets and gone, give it an hour. But no, but I have some great news for you. Today is the first day when there's been less days left of this election campaign than there were before. In the words of one of my most favourite philosophers, wo-ho, we're halfway there. But I'm not sure whether we have a prayer. Because here's the truth. Up to now, and when you look at the manifestos, I've read them, so you don't have to. There really isn't that much in either the Labour or the Conservative manifesto on not just the subjects that matter to us, but the subjects which need to matter to everybody, because these are the subjects, these are the technologies which will give us the health service, the education service, levelling up, cost of living addressed, energy crisis, net zero, climate change. It's only through the human-led deployment of these technologies and these means of generating new sources of liquidity that we are going to do anything other than languish. And what a stunning golden thread we have to pull on in the Commonwealth. Common language, common law, common cause, common purpose. Why don't we and all of our 55 friends in the Commonwealth come together so much more, not least around all of these areas of digital finance, AI, the things that are going to make the difference, rather than overly worrying about previous industries and falling into the trap of seeking to freeze the past. So what would have been good to see in some of the manifestos? I think we'd have liked to see a lot more on open banking, on open finance, to really enable consumers, individuals, citizens through data. Much work needs to be done. The Data Protection and Digital Information Bill, days of my life I'll never get back. And we didn't even get the bill through, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it wasn't good in all of its parts. But it does have a critical part for what we're about today and in this community. All the clauses around smart data and what we need to progress on that fell when the general election was called. So whoever writes the next King's Speech on the 17th of July, we need not only a data bill, but for that bill to be stood up pretty quickly and got through the parliamentary process so we can press ahead with smart data. We need to get on with digital ID. And there may be possibly more of an opportunity if there's a different party in power come the 5th of July. It might happen. It's good to look at the data points. Opinion polls are data points, so we may have an opportunity when it comes to digital ID, because digital ID is the key, again, to so much of the subjects that have been discussed this morning and at previous gatherings here in the marvellous Mansion House. What do we need? That holy trinity of digital ID, wallet, and tokens, and to have it in a way that everybody, every citizen right around the Commonwealth can feel part of it, can understand why it matters. AI. You don't hear that talked about much, do you, really? It's funny, in sort of the years 2015 to about 2018, you could never see a pitch deck without that organisation absolutely claiming that blockchain was so central to their operations. Now you can't see a pitch deck without AI being absolutely at the centre of that business's operations. And for sure, you get hype cycles around all of these technologies, but the fundamental truth is blockchain, AI, tokenization, cyber, quantum, and how all of that interacts and converges and can be deployed in concert. What human-led, human potential. And yet, the current government's approach of wait and see to AI just seems crassly insufficient. When has wait and see been a rallying call to achieve anything? It's why I brought my AI regulation bill to Parliament in November, and I got it through all stages in the Lords. An AI authority, don't think big BMF do all AI authority. Neat, tight, nimble, agile, horizontally focused regulator. Pro-innovation, pro-citizen rights, pro-consumer protection. Principles-based, outcomes-focused, inputs understood, and where necessary, consented and paid for. A responsible AI officer in every business. Don't think person, don't think cumbersome, don't think bureaucratic, don't think compliance burden. It's a role, not an individual, and tied into the reporting obligations, very easily understood through the Companies Act. IP protected, labelling so people know if AI is in that product or service. And crucially, the most important clause of my bill, public engagement. If the public don't engage with these technologies, if they can't ask and be answered, what's in this for me, why should they engage? Why should they take up any of these opportunities? Difficulty is, that may be the consequence that they don't because of that, so they won't get the benefits, but you can be assured they will be saddled with the burdens. And we know how to do effective public engagement in this country. Years ago, with IVF, what could be more science fiction? What could be more terrifying than human life being brought in a laboratory test tube? Why is IVF not only seen as a positive part of our society, more just blended into the background of our society? Because a colleague of mine years ago, the late, great Baroness Warnock, had the Warnock Commission going around the country, engaging with people, having that public debate stood up to understand what we were talking about with IVF. If we can do it for IVF, we can sure do it for AI, digital finance, and all else of these marvellous technologies in our human hands. Think of them as tools. Incredibly powerful tools, but the reason to think of them as tools is because they're in our human hands. We decide, we determine, we choose how to deploy them. Those are the opportunities. We will have a change of government, whatever happens. Whenever there's change, there's always opportunity. It may not feel like that, but it's incumbent on all of us in this country and right around the Commonwealth to engage with one another, to engage with civil society, to engage with everybody in the economy, to bring forth this new era, this new dawn, and reaching as high as possible. If we can get that engagement through some of the international global organizations, many of which stood up in the aftermath of World War II, potentially, just potentially, we might not just get a sensational global response and path forward with AI, but we could reimagine all of those international organizations and really then start to address all of the other challenges, existential, global in nature, not least the climate emergency and net zero. We can. We know what we need to know to make a success of this because we have the great good fortune of being born human. But it's down to us. Ultimately, just this. Our data, our decisions, our technology-enabled futures. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Out of the best. Pretty thank you. Trent.
Wow. Yeah, that's left me with a lot of thinking to do. Chris, thank you very, very much. Normally, I do this after dessert and everything, but I'm saying to the staff of Mansion House, could you go ahead and bring out the pudding? That'd be great, so we can catch up some time. Whilst they're doing that, I do want to say my thank yous, which Chris very sweetly did for the Mansion House staff. So once again, Mansion House staff, thank you very much. Jill Guttridge. But as I said this morning, you know, this whole thing by that decision 3 weeks ago was slightly derailed. So obviously, you know, planning a summit, which only gave 6 weeks for us to organize from the one on the 2nd of May, meant we had to think fast. And I pulled in a lot of favors from very good friends. And I just wanted to say a massive thank you to all of you speakers who hopped on planes. I can count at least 10 of you who flew over just for this. I can't thank you enough because, you know, the quality of speakers that we've had at these 3 summits so far has just been breathtaking. And it's a real privilege to have watched you grow in your own worlds and educate me in mine. So, you know, thank you. Just thank you very much. Good? Now, because my mother's here, I'm going to have to sort of like say, cover your ears, dear, because this is not an inexpensive thing for me to do. And I'm trying very hard to make a difference to support exactly what Chris was saying. You know, I think that we have such an amazing pool of talent in this country and the tools to which, you know, we can grab it. So, you know, I'm not a company. We've got the Digital Commonwealth, but that's you, that's everybody. And yes, I am a company, but I'm still just me. And it can't happen without the support of the industry, and therefore, you know, financially, it's been extremely helpful to have some friends put their hand in their pocket. So thank you very much indeed. So I'd like to thank our principal partners, Fideum, Koi Network, Cooler Down, and yes, they turned up today, Dear Foundation. Thank you, Dear Foundation. Hey, Chris, thank you. Our headline partner, my very dear friend, and just hugely grateful as always. James Ramsden, Casey. Thank you. Pete, you're here. General partner, Kudos, thank you. And our events partners, Archax, Clearbank, Minima, and Orbital. None of this stuff happens without your subsidy. I'm still writing checks, so I still need partners, so thank you. And there is one particular company that supports me, and I thank them every time because they just are wonderful. They're the color company. Elgin Lone was here earlier. He helped when it was most needed. All of the printing, the banner work, everything is done by them. And I'd urge you, if ever you're going to get any posh stationery done, go to the Wren Press, because he owns that as well. And Mummy knows that too, because she's got the King's stationery. Happy Christmas. It's all right, you can start your food, it's fine, just carry on. I'm saving time for Darren, because otherwise he's going to shoot me. Thinking of Darren and the team, again, this really was a magnum opus, and without them and their support, this would not have pulled together at the last minute like it always does, even though I'm swearing and blinding and jumping up and down and all of that stuff. So the really cool thing is we've been quite innovative with something called a QR code on your table number. That gives you the link to book your tickets, right, for September the 13th, which is when we come back. The last bit of housekeeping is that the networking drinks are going to be next door at number 1 Lombard Street, and that's in partnership with, okay, it's a project I founded, and I'm wearing the ring, la 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 la. But Jade City, we're very proud of what we're doing. So come and have a drink next door. And I haven't forgotten that it's the opening game of the Euros. So the Lady Mayoress is German. Just saying. My mother, on the other hand, and I have deep Scottish roots. My second name is Bruce, after all. And then, yeah, that's it. So have your pudding, have your coffee, have your petit four, and then Darren, I'm sorry, but we're 15 minutes late. I don't give a shit. We're going to go up at 3. Okay? Thank you.